Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session with your host, Michael Rearden.
The idea of being a leader, of being someone who can change the world, is something that I admire in entrepreneurs and individuals who are striving for a change, not only in their lives, but maybe even as much as the world. Now, the world can be as big as you want it to be. It can be your neighborhood. It could be your community. It could be the state. It could be the country. And then it can even span on to every corner of the globe. But when we think about what is leadership, we have talked about it many times in the podcast. Leadership is going to be defined as this idea or character of someone striving to be that beacon of hope, that beacon of prowess that someone can look at and say, whoa, this is a leader. Now, in our world today, we have so many potential leaders. And potential leaders meaning that I'm saying that people have this goodness within them. They have this positivity. They have this seed of greatness. But not everyone's going to nurture that seed. And I said, and I will continue to say this, that we are all born with the ability to be leaders, but not all of us will be leaders. There's going to be a good of us that are going to be followers, meaning that we're just going to kind of do what we're told. We're just going to kind of being pushed where we're pushed. It's almost like you are just a part of the ocean and you're just going to move wherever it goes versus you want to be the boat, the sailboat, and you want to choose where you want to go. Now, I understand the wind might be a proponent to that, but when we're trying to, be the leaders that we should be becoming, it's something that you have to understand that you are the captain of your vessel. And for many people, they are like, I would love to be the leader. I would love to, be someone that is doing the right thing. But most of the time, it's easier to be a follower. For example, think about money. It's easier to get a paycheck. It's easier to say, hey, I'm going to work a 9 to 5, get a paycheck, and then they take out the taxes. I don't have to worry about anything. Come tax time, everything is done for me. Versus if you are a leading authority, maybe you're an entrepreneur, for example, you have to do all of this tax stuff and you have to go out and do all these business transactions and meetings, and your success is dependent on you. And many people don't want that. Many people don't want to say, well, if I'm living in a bad situation, I don't want them to look at, my situation and say I'm the problem. They want to look at someone or something and say that this is the problem. So it's easier for a non-leader to say that you are the problem versus a leader that says, I am the problem. I'm the proponent to my successes and my failures. So today I have an article. It's a TUS Part 67, Redefining Leadership, the Mindset Revolution. Now, when we understand mindset and TUSs are tune-up series, and this is for people who have strong mindsets already. I talk about the aspect of becoming a leading authority. The aspect of leading authority, I believe, is like a TUS 57 or something. So it was 10 TUSs ago. We talked about if you want to be a leading authority, and that's the saying how you can be that person that if they're talking about a certain thing, for example, you're in the steel industry, you want your name to be saying, hey, this person is in the steel industry. If you are in the landscaping industry, your name should be, hey, this person's in the landscaping industry. There's ways to do that. Social media is going to be maybe the most powerful way to do that more quickly if you want to hit on, a nationwide scale. But when we're trying to understand the importance of, our mindset and how this affects us to be true leaders, we need to understand that there's going to be a key to this mindset type revolution. And these 3 keys that I'm going to share with you today are going to be a leader's ability to be self-aware. And that's going to be talking about oneself and others. 2, a growth mindset with a vision of purpose. Then 3, resilient and adaptable, being a lifelong learner. Now, when we think about the first one, right, being self-aware to our abilities, it's our abilities, what we have and what we don't have. I know what I'm not good at. Where I'm not good at, I could make it my mission to say, I'm not good at this. Let me do my best to become good at this, right? I want some awareness of my weaknesses. I want to have at least a little bit of saying, yeah, I know about that, but I will delegate that to someone else. How many CEOs do you know that are going on the floor and working the machinery stuff? And, like if you work in like a parts building or something, the CEO is not going down there making parts and things like that. Not saying that they can't. Maybe they don't have the engineering background. Maybe they have the managerial background, the business background. They know about throughput. They know about, managing people. Guess what? They hire people to manage those people. Typically, with the people who have gone up in the ranks have already done the groundwork. They know how to make these parts. They know how to do things, etc. Right? But the CEO might not know how to do any of those things. If we think of someone big, Elon Musk, for example, right? You don't have to like the guy. Does Elon Musk know how to build a Tesla? Can Elon Musk say, hey, I'm going to go into Tesla and I'm going to build a Tesla with my hands? Not saying he doesn't, but does he do it? Right? He doesn't, right? He has machineries. He has engineers. That's what he does. The same thing with SpaceX. He doesn't go in and build rocket ships. Can he? Does he? Maybe a little bit, but he's not, right? Jeff Bezos, for example, is he going in and he's fulfilling orders at Amazon? No, he's not. Did he do it at one point? Yes, he did. So he's changing, he's evolving, his role is adapting. So now his ability is to say, who can fill this position? Now, it might not be as good as me. I know this is a struggle with some leaders where they're like, I don't want my assistant to do this because I can do it better and I can do it quicker. It's not about you doing it better and you doing it quicker. It's about you delegating things that are going to be tasks that are able to be done by someone else. For example, it could be as simple as, hey, I need you to send a thank you letter to someone. Yes, you can send your own thank you letter, but if you have someone else do it, let's say it takes 15 minutes to do it, a thank you letter. That thank you letter is taking 15 minutes of your time, but then you have to understand there's going to be some time that is going to be usurped beyond the 15 minutes, meaning now my mindset is in a form of gratitude and things. I'm going to think about, maybe I want to send more thank you letters to these people, and etc. So now you're going down this rabbit hole and you're trying to stay in a focused, narrow zone of what you need to do as a leader, right? What is the most important task that you have to do right now? And if you are like a sporadic type of leader, you're like, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and you have no structure to your day and your ebb and flow of work, you're going to have some problems. So I know one of the things that many leaders, they come to me and they say, Michael, I need help with management. And not about managing people. They're really good at that. They need help with managing the flow of their work. When do I do emails? When do I do calls? When do I go onto the faculty, like the faculty floor? When, and how many meetings I'm supposed to have, right? All of these things are important questions, and it depends on what type of business you have. It depends on the current business life, right? So maybe you're financially strong in the business, so, things can kind of, keep going the way they are, versus if a business is not doing too well. Typically you have to change things very quickly, right? So if a business is like 3 months away from closing their doors, we need to get some things changed very quickly. Versus if someone's very strong in a good place, we can say, okay, well, let's make some modifications, and this is going to have a longevity aspect of helping the business grow, and it's going to be done in a way where it's not so abrasive. If you wanted to lose weight, for example, right, for a wedding, typically people use abrasive approaches, and those abrasive approaches don't last. They're called fad diets. So they lose the 30 pounds that they want for the wedding, and then they gain the 30 pounds back. Now, I can't imagine any business that wants to make a certain amount of money. They make a certain amount of money, and then they fall back down to the money that they were making. No, they want to make more money. And if they can keep that amount of money they're making, that's a good thing, right? So if they made $1.5 million last year in profit, they would like to make $2 million maybe the next year in profit. They don't want to make 1.5 this year and then 700,000 and then 200,000. It's like we're going down, we're going backwards. This is something we have to look at. So the ability to be self-aware of what's happening, not only within your company, yourself, but then what's happening with other people. You have to understand something about being a leader, being a boss, is that there's going to be things that happen in the world and things that are going to be happening in their life. And you might say, well, it's not my responsibility that they're coming in with personal problems. It's not so much that they're coming in with personal problems and they need you to care about their personal problems. It's just that you have to understand maybe the reason why they're not being as productive this week is because their parents died or something, right? Maybe they lost a loved one. That can have an impact on their ability to work. Now, as a leader, you have to be self-aware of they have the ability, right? That's hopefully the reason why you hire them or why they're part of your company. If they're automatically changing, what was the reason for that change? You should do the work to say, hey, if this is, if this shift in focus is not creating something that's going to be beneficial for both of us, we need to look at it. But if we can't have some level of impact on them to get out of that hole that they're in, or that rut that they're in, then, we're going to be going through so many people. And when you go through a lot of people, you might think that you're trying to find the right person, but you're actually wasting more time. How costly is it to bring on somebody to train them, to say that they're not a good fit, so you can have to spend more time interviewing someone and then train them? And then now, again, you're just continuing down that loop. You're wasting so much time trying to find the right person with the right abilities, but nothing's happening, right? You have to say, you know what? The process works. If you have a process, that is, and you have to trust in it. And then you have to trust in that person. If you can help that person through whatever they're going through, that hardship, they're going to be more likely to have a higher output after they get out of that rut, because they're going to understand that the abilities that they have, you have faith in them. And then they're going to say that, the burden of achievement automatically sets in for them. But that burden is not so much of a burden they want to get rid of. It's something they want to rise to. So as a leader, when you nurture your team and when you care for your team, they want to do better. They want to make money for the company. And it's something that, like, why would someone want to fulfill my dream when they have their own dreams? In a sense, some people don't need to have big dreams or bigger dreams than someone else. Like, this is not a dream competition where you're like, my dream is bigger than your dream. Ha ha, I'm laughing at you. You have a small dream. It doesn't matter. Because like I said, success is very similar to the idea of a dream, right? What is success for you? Maybe just having a small house with a dog and a cat, maybe with a loved one, a couple of kids, and that's it. Go on vacation once a year, that's it. Maybe someone, for them, success is, or the dream is to go on vacation every single week, to work remote. I mean, everyone has a different lifestyle, and that's perfectly fine. Because then we get into the aspect or the idea of growth mindset. Now, we talked about growth many times before. Growth mindsets are going to be just talking about people who have this vision of a future that is better than what it is currently. What you have to understand that sometimes in life, there's going to be intervals. The intervals can be good and, growth is happening and everything is good, right? And then something happens, right? The interval peaks and it's like you're at a plateau for a while. And maybe you start dipping. You're like, oh, I'm dipping. I don't like this. Is that still growth, right? Because you're not going up, right? We have this conception of what growth is. And growth is this elevating aspect, right? We are growing. The stocks are growing. My money is growing. Like my portfolio is growing, where we don't look at maybe the portfolio as an example. is your portfolio diversing, rather than growing? So the money might not be going up, but if it's becoming more diversified, it can be in the idea of growing. Now, this is different, right? Like the growth mindset can be used for any aspect of relationship, career. Today, we are going to be using more career because this is leadership. Leadership is typically tied with career. So now in our career, if we have a bad week, maybe a bad month, heck, maybe even a bad year, hopefully not a bad year, right? So you have maybe all the way a bad year, right? Definitely not what we want. We have the ability as a company to say, what is going on? Let's make some changes. Now, of course, there's going to be things that you can do. For if you're a company, you can say, let me hire a specialist to come in, analyze my company. That would probably be the easiest thing to do. They're going to figure out where there's bottlenecks in your company, because every company has bottlenecks, especially manufacturing companies. You can look at the cost for material, etc., where to get things made if you are creating things. There's many aspects depending on your type of business. But the thing that is going to be universal is if you have a bad week, month, year, whatever, you're going to want to change that, right? You're going to want to get back into the idea of growth. Now, that loop or that pit of something bad happening, it could have been something that was out of your control. The economy, for example, the pandemic. How many businesses were closed down because of the pandemic? Too many to count. And it's sad. People lost their livelihoods. Family businesses have been lost and gone and closed forever because of this unexpected turn. So now, if we have something that is there and that's like, boom, like that's not a good thing, and maybe it killed the business, we learn, saying, hey, this failure is now a bit of wisdom for me. So when I start my next business, or when I'm a part of someone else's business, if we're going downhill, at least I know that this is something that we can get through, or it is something that we can bounce back from. One of the universal things is if you are, having that dip, the idea of growth is that you can rebound, you can get better, right? There's not like I hit rock bottom and this is it. Because even if your doors close, you understand something, that you can always get up and try again. They say that it's not about how much you get knocked down, it's about how often you get back up. So yes, you might lose your business, you might lose your livelihood, but if you can get this idea of growth and of keep on moving on, right? The purpose that you give yourself is never giving up. So this can be a good thing for mindset and the revolution of mindset, because you're trying to say, hey, if I can begin to change my mind to be more resilient, what can happen? What can occur? The third one is going to be resilient and adaptable, lifelong learners. This is like, whoa, how can I mix number 3 and 2 together and get the recipe to be great once more, right? Resilient and adaptable simply meaning that no matter what happens, I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep on trying. Even if you have to, say, okay, this was a loss. Let's scrap it. Let's start over. I know many entrepreneurs who have had failed businesses, and they have had many attempts of trying things, and they have failed. And all of a sudden, now it's like they finally found something that clicked, something that worked. You might have a passion for something, and that's great, right? You can have many passion projects. You can have as many passion projects as you want. But if you want a company that's maybe making money and, is doing good things for the world, maybe you have to do certain things. Maybe you have to go through a certain amount of failures. And many people don't associate failure with success, because they think that if I had this failure, I'm not successful. But yet, if you have overcome a failure, you are now more resilient. You learn to adapt to those failures. And many people, what happened during the pandemic, as an example, is they learn to adapt People said, okay, we're going to stay 6 feet apart. We're going to wear masks. We're going to have hand sanitizing stations and things like that. We're going to clean every 30 minutes, et cetera, right? So that was the way they adapted and they survived. Not everyone survived, of course, but, a good amount of people became resilient. And now the American people who have gone through this pandemic mindset or the aspect have become more resilient. So essentially, over the last probably, I would say 5 to 6 years, the revolution of mindset has changed so drastically. Our mindset has become a lot more strong, but there's so many areas where it's still brittle. So if we have to go through times of uncertainty, we typically come out stronger, but it's not going to fix every single area at once. So we might strengthen one part of the bridge, but if we're not strengthening the other side or the middle per se, the bridge is still weak and fragile. So we have to look at the totality of our life and the totality of everything that's going on to understand that if we adapt and we become more resilient, are we still going to give ourselves this idea of we had a hardship, the growth aspect that was mitigated for a minute or for a point, and are we going to overcome that and be better? Some people, when it comes to that, they are just kind of, giving themselves this individual aspect of I did it by myself versus we did it together. Because when we think about the pandemic, it's not so much of we survived the pandemic as a country, but more so I survived the pandemic as a boss or as a worker or whatever, right? We have become so individualized, and the mindset revolution is not about being independent, but being and understanding that if you are a leader per se, it's not about I'm leading by myself, but so much of being a leader of people that I manage, but more so of I'm a leader and I have people who I need to take care of. And you could tell for certain companies that during the pandemic, I know for my wife, she had, was going to do her like some brace work, some braces work, and she had a dentist, and they didn't have any more appointments for the pandemic for like 3 months or something like that. Even though the office was closed, the doctor still paid everyone's salary for the time that they were closed. And you have to ask, well, did he have to do that? And the answer is no, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to pay anyone's salary. But he said, I will. There's many companies that did that too, right? That's going to be a good company. Now, some companies got killed because of it, but it's the aspect of character, right? I'm not going to abandon the people that put faith in me or, put faith in the company. And it just shows, hey, if they can do this for me, what can I do for them, right? Let me reciprocate that. The companies that survived and that were able to overcome the issue with the pandemic and everything, they became more resistant to things, and the morale increased, and the companies had a great impact on all the mindset of the whole organization. The people who were a part of it, the people who supported the company, like I know there's people who literally purchased from companies that kept their workers because they were like, whoa, like this is a company that I can get behind, right? There's so much to leadership. There's so much to understanding the idea of what this is. And what this is TOS part 67, what I'm talking about today, redefining leadership, the mindset revolution. Now, leadership is more than just following someone. It's about talking about the dynamic landscape of how things change. And we need to understand that we have to be transformative in the sense of being a leader. Not every single day is going to be, well, I'm just going to manage my people. They're going to do what they need to do. Some days there's going to be times when you have to pivot. Some days where you have to have a meeting. Some days where you have to kind of press on the gas. Some days when you have to press on the brakes. And you have to be that dynamic type of leader. This article, what we wrote about today, when I'm talking about the mindset revolution, is talking about some nuanced things of mindset and revolution. And when I wanted to create this podcast episode for you, I understood that this article is going to be something that you have to read because it's something that's new. But then again, not everyone is going to, have the strong mindset of being a leader already, or they want to become a leader. So they're trying to figure out, and this is more an advanced way of thinking of leadership. So I gave a blanket understanding of what leadership was today. And it might have had some great points for some leaders who are doing it already, maybe for some people who would like to step into leadership and to adapt into that role. But if you are someone who is at the inception of leadership, I encourage you to start back all the way to Ep.557, become a leading authority. We have many other great blogs on leadership, and then work your way up to this one. Because if you start here, it's going to kind of be like, you got a max level character and you don't know any of the skills. Okay. So like, yes, you're very strong and you're powerful, but you have to be able to build yourself up. It's like if I gave you all the power and I said, okay, you can lift all this weight, but your body can't lift the weight, meaning you are strong enough to lift a weight, but it's going to tear apart your body because your bones are not strong enough. Your muscle fibers are not strong enough, but yet you can do the task, but it breaks you down in the process. So in order for you not to break down, understand that this is going to be something that you have to build to, this mindset revolution, this mindset resilience in a sense. You have to build to it. It's not something that you can just read and say, oh, I got it. Oh, this is easy. It takes time to build this. So I encourage everyone to read some of the blogs, to watch some of the episodes prior to this on leadership if you are new to leadership. And then essentially at some point, take this tool out from the toolbox, because this is basically a tool that you can leverage in order to enhance not only yourself, but your organization as well. Leadership can be redefined, and it begins often with you.